Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is my January reading wrap up. I read 10 books this month, which I can't think of another month where I read that many books. Like a month where I was in school that I read that many books, so kind of crazy for me. But I was super lucky that most of January I was still on break, and then when I came back to school, my schoolwork hasn't gotten too heavy yet, so I had a lot of time to read. But y'all, I just could not put books down. I kept picking them up and then reading it and like reading it in like a day and then starting another book, reading that in a day. Like it was crazy. But I have had a really good time reading most of the books. Some of them are lower ratings than I usually rate, but I've still had like a really good time reading because a lot of them were still like highly rated. But yeah, that is what I have for you guys today in this video. I technically still have time in the day, because today is the 31st that I'm filming this, that I could finish another book. So if I do, I will just put that at the end. But I doubt that I'll finish it. So if I don't even like it, don't worry about it. But I just like, I'm still kind of in shock that I read 10 books. It didn't really feel like I was like, wow, I'm getting through. But then when I went on my Goodreads to like fill in my reading journal today for the last book that I finished, and I saw that was 10, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. And like, I'm happy, I'm proud of myself. I just didn't think that I would like be able to do that in a month where I was also in school. So it just made me like really happy. But yeah, that is what I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys enjoy, and let's get into the video. So I do not have the physical copies of most of these books with me. Most of these books are back at home. I think 2 or 3 of them I have here, but most of them are back at my house. So you'll just be getting images popping up on the screen for most of them. But the first book that I read was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. So as most of you guys know, I was doing my reread of the Empyrean series because Onyx Storm is coming out in January, and you guys knew I was gonna read it. I still love it dearly. I still rate it a 4.75. It like it's not the same, like the storyline isn't the same as Fourth Wing, but it still gave me generally that same feeling. There was just like a little bit of the book where it kind of like dipped off, and that's why it lost the 5-star rating. But I just like, oh, it's still just so good. And like, I don't know, man. I swear Rebecca, like, she's putting crack in those books because I'm obsessed. I mean, it's just simply that. I am obsessed, and I just can't. I'm telling you, these authors, I don't know what it is, but they're putting some drug in their books because it just, the obsession I get with some of these book series and authors is crazy. But yeah, that was the first book that I read, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, so the next book that I read was Sorrow and Starlight, which is the 8th. I think it's the 8th book in the Zodiac Academy series, which, as you guys know, I have been chugging along through that since last year, and I finally finished it on the drive home because I listened to it, so I had it playing when I was driving, and literally I was on the highway and I was like 10 minutes from my apartment and it ended, and I was like, wait. So I like quickly switched to the next one. But I think I have been reading that one since like August, maybe even longer than that. I'm not sure, but it had been a hot minute that I had been reading that one. I just like, I don't know. I think the 7th one was just so good that like, and the way it ended was so difficult that it was hard to like the 8th one as much. Not that it was bad, it just like, it's hard to explain because I can't spoil what happens at the end of the 7th book, but if you've read them, you know what happens, and like for that reason, it was really hard to keep reading the 8th book. So I only rated it 4.25, but I gave it a 4.25 instead of a 4 because I'm like, okay, to be fair, the storyline, the way it had to go, I think that the authors did a good job still making it entertaining, even though lots of things were happening. That's all I'll say. But I still enjoyed like reading it, and I think towards the end I liked it better than certain parts like at the beginning / middle. But it's still entertaining. I still want to keep reading. I still want to know like what is gonna happen at the end. I have ideas, but like at this point, I don't even know. They'll probably not even be right, let's be honest. But I would say somewhere between 4 and 4.25, but I'm settling on 4.25 right now just because I think that like I still enjoyed it, I still had fun. I remember laughing, I remember being like, oh, you know, being surprised by things, all of that. So it was still a fun read. I just don't think I enjoyed it as much like plot line wise as the other books, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was the second book that I read. Okay, so the third book that I read then, of course, was Onyx Storm, which I know none of you guys are probably surprised by because not only did I post a reading vlog for it, but I also, like, of course I did. Like, you guys know me too well to know that I was not gonna just let that book, like, sit in limbo and not read it. So, I did read that, and I, in my reading wrap-up, rated it a 4.5, and I think I'm going to keep it that. But I think that, like, I don't know, I think it was just because in certain aspects it felt too similar to Iron Flame, and there was too many moments where I kept thinking, like, things were happening and then they weren't happening. Like, okay, well, they were happening, but not to the extent that I thought it was, and then there were just some confusing parts, and I think just for me, like, I don't think it was necessarily her writing that made it confusing. I think my brain was just like, because I read it in 3 days and literally read half of it in 1 day, and it was just a lot. So I think if I was to reread it and it got higher, it would probably because I took more time on it. But 4.5 is still like a really great rating. So like, I just, compared to the other ones, it technically is the lowest rating of them all. But I feel like also sometimes with series that can happen where those middle books aren't rated as highly, because sometimes it's kind of that, as horrible it sounds, that more depressing, rough kind of like, we got to get through this to get to the, you know, other end type thing. So I do feel like maybe that's kind of why maybe it would be lower. But I still had a really great time, and I still cannot wait for the next book. Even though I know it's gonna be a while, I'm super excited for it, and like I am just left with shock and confusion and just like, what is happening? I don't even know. But yes, I am so excited for when the fourth book does eventually come out. I will be just as annoying about it as I was for Onyx Storm. Don't you guys worry. Okay, so the next book that I have is The Archer's Amulet. I was at my local Barnes & Noble, and one of the workers had come up to me and kind of was just like, oh, like, I was in the romance section, which is where this was. He's like, oh, do you read romance? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, do you read fantasy by chance either? And I was like, yeah, I read both. You know, I'm a romantasy reader, like, kind of like romance, then romantasy, and then I'll dabble in fantasy every once in a while. I usually more into watching fantasy, like straight up. I like having the romance aspect of the books. But he was like, oh yeah, this is a romantasy, I think you'll love it. It was a local author who had written it, blah, blah, whatever. I was like, okay, great. So I bought it, and it actually, she had just, I guess, done a signing there, so it is a signed edition too, which was cool. So I was like, great, yeah, whatever. Well, it's super short too, so, you know, if I didn't like it, no big deal, whatever. Well, I wouldn't say that I disliked it, like, oh, this was a bad book. I just think that for me, I could see the potential. I think I like the idea that the author had and the way it was going. I felt like, however, it was really fast-paced, knowing that there's other books in the series. Like, it's short, but like, it didn't need to be that fast-paced. And like, I don't know, it just went, I feel like, from the main character and like that character's goal, and now all of a sudden they're like, the romance kicks in. I don't know, it's really hard to explain without spoiling stuff. It wasn't my favorite thing ever. I don't think I'm gonna continue reading. I don't know. I kind of want to, because like now I've started it, and like there's a little part of me that's kind of like, well, I kind of want to know what happens. But I don't know, it was just like the romance that happened. Not that it was like, oh, I didn't want those characters to be the romance. Like, I'm okay if that is the romance plot of this book. However, I just think the way it happened was really quick and odd. And I kind of would have liked there to be a bit more of a slow burn within it. Because I do think I like that in fantasy books where there's more slow burn romances, whether it's enemies to lovers slow burn or just generally a slow burn. So I only rated it a 3 stars. Maybe I'll pick up the second one. I don't know. It's not gonna be top of my like list of things I need to read, but maybe at some point I will come back to it. I'm pretty sure they're all short like this, so like it won't take too long to read even if I do come back. But yeah, it was just okay for me. I would say if you are someone who's really adamantly like a romantasy reader, like you don't really read just romance, you really only read romantasy, I would say you should give it a try. It maybe would be more up your alley then. It just, I don't know. There was something about it that just didn't click with me. So I'm only giving it a 3 stars, but I see the potential. Maybe I'll read it more of the series. I'm not sure, but for right now, I will be only reading this one. So like I said, 3 stars, and it was my fourth book of the month, yeah. Okay, so my next book was Bad Reputation by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So this is the Bad Rep duet, which is Whatever It Takes and Wherever You Are. Those two have been like combined into like a bind up of one, which is the Bad Rep duet. I don't know, like I said earlier about Rebecca, I don't know what these authors do. I swear to God, they're putting crack in these books. I am obsessed. I literally love the Krista and Becca Ritchie universe that has been created through the Addicted Callaway Sister series and now also with Willow and Garrison. Y'all, I can't even describe to you the way that I was just immediately drawn back in. Like I had finished Addicted Callaway and I was like having like withdrawal symptoms practically and like just wanting to reread, and I already wanted to, like, it every day takes everything out of me not to reread those books, especially because now they are on Kindle Unlimited and I'm like, I can just pick up my Kindle, I can just start reading. And it's like, no, like other books I need to read, and like it's too long to reread right now, even though I will eventually because I need to annotate the rest of the books, but like, oh, it is killing me. I want to reread it so badly. Well, then I read this, and then I wanted more of Willow and Garrison, and then, you know, you get to see all of their kids, like all the characters and their kids, and I'm like, now I want to read the like a series even more than I already did, and like that series super long, and then they're coming out with the Cult Wall Empire series, and I just, y'all, I don't know what to do. I'm stressing. I'm like, I can't just read Krista and Becca Ritchie books, but also can't I? I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit conflicted on what to do here, but I did read the Bad Reputation duet. It was amazing. I rated it 4.5 stars. I just loved being back in that universe. I love all of those characters so much, and like I like that it's romance, but that it still feels like a real like story. I feel like sometimes you read romance books and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, sure, that happens. Like, you know, as much as I love my college romances, you know, oh, like the star hockey player falls for me because I'm tutoring him, and it's like, bitch, please, that does not happen. Sorry, I probably should not say that on YouTube. Oh well. Hopefully they don't get mad at me, but still, like, that's just not gonna happen. Like, literally roll the dice, 1% chance that happens. But that doesn't mean that I still don't eat them up, and like, it's fiction, so it's okay, but I think that series feels like it could be a real thing. I know they're famous and that seems kind of like, well, that's hard to be, but honestly, I mean, not that they're anywhere near the same like level of dramatization and everything, but like you have the Kardashians. It's kind of that aspect of like, you know, following this famous family, like that idea is not unheard of. So like, I don't know, I feel like I like that aspect of it. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I think that it was a fun time. I'm so sad that that's all they get. I want more. But I do hope that when I do end up reading like a series that Willow and Garrison's kids pop up. Well, sorry, kid pop up. But who knows? I don't, because I haven't read them yet. But it's been really difficult. All I want to do is start the Leica series and reread the Addicted Callaway Sister series. Oh, it's good. Yeah, I'm worried that during the summer when I'm back at home with all those books, I'm gonna be like, well, it's time. And be like, no, you have so many other books, Paige, that you need to read. Whatever. I'm gonna stop babbling on about it because this video is going to be an hour long just because of this one book. So I'm gonna shut up now and move on to the next book. So the next book that I read is actually a different genre than I normally read. I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. So I'm not against thrillers, I just don't read a lot of them because I can be picky about my thrillers. But also just like, again, not that I don't like them, it's just not usually a book that I go to pick up. But I have all three books, The Housemaid, The Housemaid's Secret, and The Housemaid is Watching. Because my mom loves thrillers, and so she bought them in paperback, but then they came back out in hardback, and she prefers hardbacks than paperbacks, so she gave me the paperbacks and bought them in hardback. So I have them, and I was like, you know what, let me read the first one, let me see what the deal is. I know everyone raves about Freida McFadden, I know my mom liked them. I was like, let's dive in, let's dabble with it, let's see. Well, let me tell you, it was pretty good. I read The Housemaid in one day. I started it at like 8:30 at night and finished it at like 11:30. I literally could not put the book down. I remember I was like, I'm hungry, I need to have my like little snack before bed. And I was eating my snack while reading. Like I could not even put the Kindle down to like eat. It was really getting me. So I rated it at 4.25 because I'm not as familiar with thrillers as I am romance and romanticies, so it's not as like an intensive rating. But I think 4.25 is reasonable. I had a good time, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say the plot twist was too crazy for me. I feel like I kind of saw that coming, because what you kind of are made to think is happening, I'm kind of like, well, there's got to be a plot twist, so I'm like, maybe it's something to do with that person, and then it was, and I was like, oh, okay. But it still was a fun read, I really enjoyed it, and spoiler alert, I maybe read the rest of them this month. So yeah, I had a good time, and so I rated it a 4.25. Then after finishing that, I went on to Make You Mine by Tia Louise, or Lewis, I'm not exactly sure how they pronounce their last name. Y'all, I got this for Christmas and I was so excited to read it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be good, blah, 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 blah. Like, no. I'm gonna be honest with you all, I didn't like it. I only rated it a 3. And for romance, that's low for me. Like, I don't want to say it was bad because I don't think the writing was bad. I just think it wasn't for me. I'm very picky about small town, but I've been having luck with it recently, so I wasn't too worried about it. But here we are again, and I'm like, nope, it was too small town of a feel, and like to the point where like literally even the judgment of like what living in a small town feels like was there, and I was like, I don't like that either. And like, I don't know, just the characters kind of annoyed me sometimes, and I don't know, I was kind of bored reading it, so I did finish it because like it wasn't awful. I was like, I want to finish it. I don't like DNFing books. I like to be able to go through and be like, I read it, it was great, or I read it and you know what, I didn't like it, it's okay. So since it wasn't like literally like, oh my god, this is really bad, I don't want to read this, I did finish it. But like I said, I only rated it 3 stars, and I don't think I'll be continuing the series, nor do I think I'll continue reading anything by the author unless maybe they have something kind of like drastically different. But yeah. Okay, so the next book that I read was Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I have had this book for probably like 2 or 3 years now, and I remember I had picked it up and read maybe like the first 3 chapters, and then I like had put it down and was just not in the mood for this type of book, because basically it's like friends to lovers to strangers to lovers, and I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm not really in the mood for all of that like roller coastery drama. I remember feeling that way. I don't remember what I read after it. I don't remember when that was exactly. I just remember that happening. I am so sorry. Excuse me. But it... Guys, this was also a 3 stars. I know this month was a little rough. I don't know if it was because I read Onyx Storm and then was completely and utterly just like nothing was living up to that. I don't know. And then also bad reputation. Like, I don't know. But this one was only 3 stars. I don't use that lightly, I hated the guy in this book. At first I was like, okay, like I can kind of see why he is the way he is, because like it starts like from like current day, then goes back and then comes back to current day. So current day at the beginning I was like, nah, okay, like whatever. Then they went to him in the past, and there was about 14 different times that I wanted to throw the book out the window. Like, sir, you cannot just like tell people what to do. Like, that's just not. I don't want to spoil anything, but there was a situation where he saw the girl going into a doctor's appointment and he followed her in there because he's like, why is she going to the doctor? Well, it's none of your business. She can go to the doctor if she needs to or wants to. Like, I don't understand. And then when she told him why she was there, which she is an adult and can make her own decisions, he tried to talk her out of it because he thought it was a little unsafe. Sure. But then to the point where he was like, no, you have to leave. Like, you need to go. Not like, hey, I don't know, this seems a little, like, sir, you are not the boss of her. She's a grown woman and can make her own decisions. And I don't know, I didn't like that feeling, and I just felt like he was really annoying. And then finding out what the whole, miscommunication was that happened, why they then were estranged, and then why it took so long to get back, and all the little details. And one of the other tropes that I don't like was in here, but I don't want to spoil that because that is kind of a spoiler, which I saw that one coming, of course. I did not like this book either. I was really upset for not liking it because I really wanted to like it. I had heard such great things about it. And it was nothing really to do with the writing. The writing was fine. It was just the plot. I was like, I don't like this. And then I did not like the male character. He was annoying. And so I don't know. I might read another book by her because, like I said, the writing wasn't the problem. It was just the plot. Because I know that there's another book. Now I can't think of what it's called. I can't think of what it's called, but I know that there's another book by her that a lot of people have read about too. So I may read another book by her, but probably not. But yeah, this was, you see how it says here, a love-hate love story? Yeah, for me, it was just a hate story. Hold on. Sorry for that abrupt little like end there. My roommate knocked on my door, because she was leaving and needed to tell me something. So sorry if that ended weird or sounded bad or whatever, but basically not my favorite book from the month. The next book that I read was The Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden. I just kind of became a little thriller girly there for a minute. I mean, like, I was kind of like, who am I? Who is she? But I rated it as well, a 4.25. I thought it was generally just as good as the first one. I didn't guess the plot twist as early as I did in the first book, and I kind of didn't see it coming exactly as it did, which is kind of hard to explain because I don't want to spoil anything. But who I thought was a problematic character ended up being a problematic character, but in a different way. And then there was also a different problematic character, if that makes sense. And if you've read the book, you might know what I'm talking about. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a good book. I will say I didn't know that the first one is like following this person into the second one, and then into the second one, into the third one. So like when I got to the end of the first one, which is kind of when you figure that out, I was like, oh, like that's really cool. And so I do like that aspect, except damn, this poor girl is just getting herself in all of these scary situations. And then after that, I read The Housemaid is Watching. And at first I was like, ooh, I think I'm gonna like this one the best because I liked the idea of it not like her not being the housemaid. Like that's how it was for the first two. And I was like, that felt similar, and that kind of was a little bit like, but like it was okay. I liked that. I was like, okay, she's not the housemaid this time. I like that difference. And I was like, ooh, it's like in a neighborhood, like who's like, I don't know, I liked that aspect too. But then I kind of just, as I was reading, I feel like I kind of started to like it a little bit less. And like figuring out like the whodunit kind of thing and all of that was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, so I only rated that one a 4 because I still enjoyed most of it, and like that kind of like momentum that you get from reading a thriller, I still had that. But I definitely think that one was my least favorite out of the two. And I mean, I do think that The Housemaid was my favorite out of the three, like if I had to pick, but The Housemaid's Secret was really close, so I'm not gonna like rate them any differently. But yeah, I became a thriller girly there for the end of January. Let me tell you, I was like, oh, I'm eating this up. So don't be surprised if there are more thrillers / more Freida McFadden books in the future because I had a great time. So yeah, those were the 10 books that I read in January. Okay guys, so that was my video for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I know that I did. I had a great time reading the books this month. I know that there were like 3 or 4 books that were kind of like, eh. But with reading 10 books, I feel like that's not a total surprise. And there were so many like really good books that like I was definitely okay with having a couple that were kind of, you know, misses. But I, again, hope that you all enjoyed. I hope you are all having a great end of your January, beginning of February, and I hope that you all enjoyed what you read this month. I posted my February TBR already. If you guys haven't checked that out, you should go watch that. I'm doing something a little different. I am making my books more like specific for the month of February. But yeah, like I said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!